"Stop following me!" A trembling voice cut through the pulse of the club's neon haze. Evelyn Carter had seen him, the man she'd sworn never to see again, forcing his way toward her through a crowd that suddenly felt too small to breathe. Her heart stuttered as she clutched a glass she could no longer taste its stem slick in her hand. What would you do if the man who once owned your soul found you again, and the only safe place left was in the arms of someone far more dangerous? Evelyn didn't plan to run toward Marcus Kane. She didn't even know his name then, only the tailored suit, the black eyes, and the quiet authority that parted the crowd like a blade. But desperation makes strange choices, and with one whispered plea against his neck, she crossed a line she could never uncross. This night at Club Meridian would be the last time she thought of herself as a victim. Or safe. Marcus Kane understood power the way a surgeon understands a scalpel. Precise, cold, necessary. By the time most people in the city had opened their first email, he had already finished a workout in a private gym, read 3 security briefs, and signed a contract worth more than the diner on Maple Street would earn in 10 years. He owned commercial real estate along the waterfront, a logistics company that never missed a deadline, and a private equity firm that turned failing brands into cash machines. People said he was ruthless. People were usually correct. His world was built on polished stone and quiet doors. The penthouse elevator opened straight into his living room, a long sweep of glass that looked out over the river and the bridges where morning light broke across the water in clean silver lines. Art hung on the walls, not the loud kind. The kind you had to stand close to and study as if it were keeping a secret. A grand piano he never played occupied the corner. The bench stayed closed. If the apartment was a stage, the office downstairs was the engine room. Card access, cameras, a conference table the size of a fishing boat. 2 assistants ran the calendar with the discipline of air traffic control, and 3 legal teams rotated through to keep the city's paper storms from touching him. He returned calls, quickly paid vendors on time, and never raised his voice. He did not need to. The room fell quiet when he walked in, calmer, sharper. The men who worked his security were not club bouncers. They were former federal agents and Marines with neat haircuts and eyes that kept moving. Marcus read every incident report. He could recite license plates from memory. If a problem touched his door, he did not outsource the solution. He studied it, chose a tool, and removed it cleanly. No second cuts. He had a public life because the city required that of any man who owned pieces of it. Charity dinners, hospital boards, a scholarship fund in his mother's name. He could shake hands with a mayor without blinking. He could say community and opportunity and make the words sound like more than speech. The papers called him a builder. His rivals used other words. Club Meridian was a business asset, not a playground. A partner had bought it for tax reasons and discovered it printed money on weekends. Marcus kept it because it was useful. Deals like the cover of music. The club's blue and pink lights gave him a way to watch the city breathe. On Fridays, a corner booth in the velvet-roped section stayed open for him, a controlled vantage point with a full view of the floor, the stairs, the exits, and the shadowed corridor where the staff slipped in and out with trays that never rattled. He did not drink to forget. He drank to measure time. 1 glass of rye could last an hour when his mind was busy. He watched faces. The way a man placed his hand on a woman's back. The way a pickpocket shaped his shoulders as he drifted through the crowd. The way real fear hollowed out a person's eyes and made them move like they were already apologizing to the future. He did not plan to save anyone, not anymore. A long time ago he had tried, and the cost had taught him the limits of even his precision. The city ate people and called it weather, so he drew a circle he could defend and kept it small. That night, as bass rolled through the floor and the room pulsed in waves, he noticed a detail that did not match. A woman in a sequined dress moved like a person listening for a sound no one else could hear. She counted exits. She kept a hand near her throat, like she was guarding something fragile. He watched her turn pause and go pale, her gaze fixed on a man with the quick, ugly posture of someone who believed the rules did not apply to him. Marcus did not look at his guards. He did not have to. The nearest one shifted 2 degrees to the left, opening a lane from the floor to the booth. The next man checked the rope line. A third took a slow step toward the trouble. Practice. Rehearsal. A dance his team knew by muscle memory. Then the woman crossed the room. Not drifting, not flirting, a straight line like a swimmer making for a shore. She ducked under the rope before anyone could stop her and landed in Marcus's lap with the clean, desperate weight of a person who had run out of choices. "Please," she said, voice low and raw, "do not let him find me." The world narrowed to her breath, to the tremor in her shoulders, to the heat of fear moving off her skin in small, visible shivers. Marcus felt every instinct argue at once. Push her away, pull her closer, ask questions, give orders. He did none of those things for a long half-second. Then he placed a steady hand at her waist, exactly where she could feel it if she needed an anchor, and spoke in a voice the room could not hear. "I have you," he said. "You are safe." He did not believe in fate. He believed in choices. But later he would remember the way the crowd parted just then, the way the man on the dance floor met his eyes and curled his lip, and he would think of all the mornings and all the contracts and all the art on the walls and how none of it mattered as much as the single choice he made in that small, bright corner of a dark room. He drew his circle wider. He put the woman inside it, and he prepared to defend it. The bass line inside Club Meridian thumped like a giant's heartbeat. Neon blues and pinks streaked the air, casting everyone's faces in feverish color. Evelyn felt Marcus Kane's arm steady around her waist, but her own hands trembled where they clutched his suit jacket. She could smell his cologne oak and dark spice, and behind it the metallic scent of her own fear. On the dance floor, Paul Whitaker shoved his way toward the velvet rope. His cheeks were flushed with alcohol, or rage, probably both, and the veins at his temples stood out like wires. He was barking her name. The crowd parted in ripples. He was exactly the nightmare she'd been trying to outrun. Only this time she wasn't alone. One of Marcus's security men moved to intercept a wall of muscle in a tailored jacket. Paul tried to push past. The guard didn't budge. "I need to speak to her," Paul shouted, pointing at Evelyn like she was property. "She's with me." His voice cracked, teetering between fury and desperation. "She's mine." Marcus didn't raise his head from the glass of whiskey he was holding, but his dark eyes flicked once to the guard. The meaning was clear. The guard's hand fell to Paul's chest, firm and immovable. "Not tonight," he said. The words weren't loud, but they carried like a door slamming shut. "Friend of yours?" Marcus asked Evelyn softly. His voice was lower than the music, but she felt it against her ear. Her breath caught. She managed, restraining order. He's not supposed to be here. For the first time since she'd thrown herself into his lap, Marcus's body shifted, not tense, focused, like a predator scenting blood. "What's his name?" he murmured. "Paul Whitaker," she whispered. Her pulse was hammering so hard she could feel it in her fingertips. "He won't leave me alone." "Look at me," Marcus said. When she turned, he was studying her face with a stillness that felt almost surgical. "You're safe now." The words were matter-of-fact, not tender, but they landed somewhere deep. He lifted his hand from her waist and signaled a second guard without taking his eyes off her. The man disappeared into the crowd. Evelyn risked a glance back toward the rope. Paul was shouting, gesturing wildly, trying to explain something to the first guard. His eyes flicked over the booth, landing on Marcus. She saw the instant he realized whose lap she was in. His face twisted into something that might have been fear or rage or both. Marcus reached into his jacket and produced a business card the weight of a coin. Heavy cream stock, only a phone number embossed in silver. No name, no company. He pressed it into her trembling hand. If he bothers you again, he said, call me. Day or night. It wasn't a question. It was a vow. Across the club, Paul tried one last time to bull past the rope. Another guard appeared at his side, taller and heavier. Paul's hand darted toward his phone, but the second guard took it gently from his fingers and handed it to the coat check attendant. Not tonight, the first guard repeated. Paul's lips moved in a string of curses. He backed away, shooting Evelyn a venomous look over his shoulder. Evelyn's knees threatened to give out. Marcus's hand returned to her back, steadying her like a steel post. Breathe, he said. She didn't realize she'd been holding her breath until the room swam back into focus. Thank you, she whispered. I didn't know where else to. No need. His tone left no room for protest. You did exactly what you should have done. For a moment in the roar of the club, Evelyn felt something she hadn't felt in years, a calm center. But there was also a ripple under it, something darker than safety. This man's protection was not free. His world was not paper restraining orders. His world was consequence. As the music shifted, Marcus leaned closer. When you leave here, he said, don't go back to your apartment tonight. It wasn't advice. It was an instruction. We'll arrange a car. Do you understand? Evelyn opened her mouth to protest, but his eyes silenced her. Dark. Absolute. She nodded. He leaned back the mask of composure, sliding over his features again, and raised his glass. Good, he said. Then let's enjoy the rest of our evening. But as Evelyn sat rigid beside him, she knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere between the velvet ropes and the business card, her life had shifted. And Paul out there somewhere in the neon night would not disappear quietly. Outside on the curb, under a flickering street lamp, a black sedan waited. Engine running, headlights off. Its windows mirrored the night sky. Evelyn would later remember the faint reflection of Marcus's men in its windshield and the promise or threat in the way it idled patient as a hawk. She was no longer invisible. She was a piece on a board she couldn't yet see. And the game had just begun. 2 nights after the club incident, the Maple Street diner smelled of burnt toast and bleach when Evelyn clocked in for her morning shift. The steady ritual of coffee pots and pancakes usually calmed her, but this morning felt like walking through a dream. She hadn't slept. The cream-colored business card weighed like lead in her pocket. Maya appeared in her usual spot at the counter around 10 o'clock, sunglasses hiding her eyes. So she whispered, "Tell me everything." Who was the guy? Evelyn poured her coffee automatically. He helped me. That's all. Paul showed up at the club. Maya lifted the cup, her hand shaking a little. I heard about that. Are you okay? Before Evelyn could answer, the diner's bell chimed. Paul stood in the doorway, hair disheveled, eyes red and wild. He scanned the booths until his gaze locked on her. We need to talk, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Rosa, the diner's owner, stepped out from behind the register with a baseball bat in her hand. You need to leave, she snapped. Right now. Paul laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm not breaking any laws by ordering breakfast. His eyes never left Evelyn's face. Am I, sweetheart? The pet name hit like a slap. Customers began whispering. Someone reached for a phone. Evelyn's hands shook as she set down the coffee pot. She thought of Marcus's arm around her at the club, the way his guards had appeared from nowhere, the feeling of being shielded instead of stalked. Get out, she heard herself say, her voice steady. We're done, Paul. Paul's smile sharpened. You think your new boyfriend scares me? His gaze shifted to Maya. Or you, he sneered, the friend who fills her head with ideas. The casual threat hung in the air like smoke. Time to go, pal, one of the regulars said. 2 construction workers stood blocking his path. For a heartbeat, Evelyn thought he might explode. Instead, Paul straightened his jacket. This isn't over, he hissed. When he's done with you, I'll be waiting. Then he walked out, leaving the diner in stunned silence. Later on her lunch break, Evelyn sat in her car with Marcus's card in her hand. Day or night. Her thumb hovered over the number. But she hesitated. Calling him would be stepping into something she could never step out of. She called. 3 hours later, a black SUV appeared at the curb, just as she was hanging up her apron. Marcus stepped out in dark jeans and a leather jacket that did nothing to soften the lethal grace of his movements. "We need to talk," he said quietly. Not here. The drive wound through streets Evelyn didn't recognize, past warehouses and chain-link fences topped with barbed wire. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Somewhere we won't be interrupted," Marcus replied. He didn't look at her. His eyes kept scanning the mirrors. Inside an abandoned textile factory, he turned to her. "Your ex came to see you today," he said without preamble. "Tell me exactly what happened." Evelyn's stomach twisted. "How do you know that I make it my business to know things Marcus said, especially when those things concern people under my protection?" "I never asked for your protection." Her voice cracked. "No," he said. "Then why did you call me?" She hated how right he was. "He threatened my friend," she said quietly. "He's been hiring people to follow me. He knows about you, about your business." Something flickered across Marcus's face. "What kind of things?" He said. "You're dangerous, that I have no idea what kind of trouble I'm getting into." "Is he right?" Marcus stepped closer, backing her gently against the SUV. His hands rested on either side of her head, caging her in without touching. "You want to know if I'm dangerous?" His voice was a low rasp. "Yes, very dangerous to people who threaten what's mine." "I'm not yours," she whispered, but the conviction was thin. "No," he said. "Then why are you here? Why did you call me instead of the police?" Because restraining orders were just paper. Because for the first time in months she had felt safe in his arms. Because a small voice said she wanted him to fix this for her. But aloud she said nothing. Marcus reached for his phone. "Marco, run a background check on Paul Whitaker." Quietly. "I want to know everything." He ended the call and looked back at her. "Your ex is about to regret involving me." "That's not an answer to my question," she whispered. "You'll have your answer soon enough," he said. "But understand this. Once you cross into my world, there is no going back to being the girl who serves coffee and hopes for the best." Evelyn wrapped her arms around herself. "I was already in it," she realized. "I was in it the moment I sat in your lap." Marcus's smile was slow and razor-sharp. "Then welcome to the family, Evelyn." She should have felt afraid. Instead, she felt something dark and steady unfurl inside her, a sense of not being alone, a sense of power she had never known. For the first time in years, she thought maybe it was time to stop running. A week passed inside Marcus Kane's mansion, yet Evelyn still felt like she was walking through someone else's dream. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, muted conversations in corridors. Marco Benetti, the man Marcus introduced as his consigliere, watched her with eyes like a chess player measuring every move. Guards roamed the grounds at night. The gates closed behind her each evening with a sound that felt more like a lock than a welcome. At first, it was enough to breathe to know Paul couldn't find her here. Marcus gave her a guest suite larger than her apartment had been. He ordered new clothes. Maria, the housekeeper, brought her tea and tried to put her at ease. But under the silk sheets, Evelyn lay awake and thought about the conversation she'd overheard through a half-open door. "She's a liability," Marco had said. "Too convenient. She walks into your life just as the Whitaker situation heats up. If the Roselli family planted her, you've handed them a perfect spy." "She's off limits," Marcus had snapped back. "Davidson's my problem, not hers." "You're letting your emotions cloud your judgment," Marco had replied. "The smart play is to eliminate them both." Evelyn had crept back upstairs, her pulse hammering. She had spent days wondering if Marcus's protection was a shelter or a trap. Then the phone call came. It was Maya, her one true friend from the diner, breathless, panicked. "Are you okay? I saw the news about some warehouse violence. Are you with him?" Evelyn tried to reassure her, but Marcus, sitting across the breakfast table with a coffee in his hand, raised a single finger. "Put it on speaker." his eyes said. So she did. The voice that came through the line was no longer breathless. It was cool, professional. "Hello, Marcus," Maya said. "I was wondering when you'd figure it out." Evelyn's spoon slipped from her hand. "Maya, what are you talking about?" "I'm sorry," Evie, Maya said flatly. "You were perfect bait. Damaged enough to look real sweet enough to make him drop his guard. The Rosellis needed someone close to him. You were already running from a man. It wasn't hard to guide you into Marcus's orbit." Evelyn's blood turned to ice. "You set me up." "It was business," Maya said. "Nothing personal. The Rosellis pay better than tips. I really do care about you, but you're standing next to a monster, and monsters have to be caged." Marcus's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "Where are you now, Ms. Lopez?" "Somewhere your men will never find me," Maya said. "Enjoy your little kingdom while you can. We're coming." The line went dead. Evelyn's world tilted. The diner, the club, the sequined dress, the chance meeting, all of it had been orchestrated. She had been a pawn from the start. Marcus set his cup down with surgical precision. "She's wrong about one thing," he said softly. "You're not bait anymore." Evelyn looked at him, tears she hadn't felt falling. "What am I then?" Family, Marcus said, "and I protect my family." A single tear streaked down her cheek. "Even if I was part of their plan." His eyes flicked over her face, searching, especially then. For a long moment she couldn't breathe. All she could think of was Paul's hand on her collarbone, Maya's betrayal, and Marco's suspicion. The walls she'd built, the lies she'd believed, and the dark-eyed man across from her who could order a man killed with the same calm he used to order coffee, telling her she belonged. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered. "Yes, you do," Marcus said. "Because they're not going to stop. They'll use you or they'll destroy you. My way is the only way you survive." He rose, came around the table, and knelt beside her chair. His hand covered hers. "But I won't force you. You choose." Outside the tall windows, dawn lit the manicured gardens like a stage set. Evelyn stared at his hand over hers. For the first time since she was a teenager, she didn't feel like a waitress or a victim. She felt like someone being invited onto the inside of the storm. "What happens if I say yes?" she asked. "Then you'll never run again," Marcus said simply. "But you'll also never be able to go back." She thought of Maya's cold voice, of Paul's threats, of the restraining order she carried it like a charm that never worked. She thought of Marcus walking through gunfire for her, and she thought about what it would mean to be part of something dark and powerful and no longer helpless. "I choose me," she said at last, voice steady. "And right now that means choosing you." Marcus's smile was sharp and sad at the same time. "Then we start tonight. We end this." He rose and extended his hand. She took it. The marble floor was cool under her bare feet as he led her to the study. Marco was waiting there, pale and grim. "It's done," Marcus told him. "The Rosellis made their move. Now we make ours." "What about her?" Marco asked, eyes flicking to Evelyn. "She stays," Marcus said. "She knows the risk. She's in." Marco's expression flickered, but he said nothing. The die was cast. In that moment, something shifted inside Evelyn Carter. She had walked into Club Meridian as prey. She had crossed into Marcus Kane's life as bait. But now she was standing in the center of a storm she had chosen. And as she looked at the two men plotting at the desk, she realized that in a city built on predators, she had stopped being food. The game had changed. The city woke under a thin band of pale gold, the kind of morning that made even bad neighborhoods look gentle for a minute. From the window of Marcus Kane's study, Evelyn could see the river lift a slow breath and set it down again. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Somewhere below a door latched, somewhere above a floorboard sighed. "It is done," Marcus said at last. Not triumph, not relief. Just a statement made in a voice that carried the weight of consequence. The Roselli move failed. The ones who planned it will not plan again. Evelyn folded her hands to stop the tremor. "And Maya," he did not look away. "She left me no safe choice." A pause. "Her part is over." The room held on to the silence. Evelyn felt something inside her lean toward grief, and then with effort stand back up. Loss had a shape she recognized. It did not have to rule her. Marcus set a small velvet pouch on the desk between them. "This is yours," he said. "It belonged to my mother. She kept numbers in her head and courage in her pocket. Keep one. Borrow the other when you need it." Evelyn did not touch the pouch. "Not yet." "What does choosing you really mean, Marcus?" "It means you will never run again," he said. "It means if danger knocks at your door, it knocks at mine first. It also means you will carry knowledge that cannot be put down. You will see how peace is purchased, and you will decide every day if the price is still worth paying." She looked at the river, at the light moving across the water like a slow procession. In her mind, she saw 3 versions of herself: the waitress who went home alone and double-locked a thin door, the woman who stayed here and learned how to live inside a circle that could fight back, and the stranger with a new name in a new town telling no one where she had been. Behind them, Marco hovered in the doorway waiting. The world would not pause while she made up her mind. Evelyn reached for the pouch. She did not open it. "Marcus," she said, "if I stay, do I become you, or do I become myself at last?" He did not answer for her. He only nodded once, as if blessing the question. Outside, a siren wailed and faded. Somewhere, a ferry horn called the hour. The light on the river kept moving. What would you choose, safety with a cost or freedom with a risk? In the end, is family about blood, about love, or about the promise to stand and face the door together?